Hello, once again, so I am back and I'm competing with sound with next door. Thank you very much for having building work done for 6 bloody months, but I digress. So, lots is going on this weekend, right? We've got the Bellator card, we've got Fedor versus Matt Mitrione, which I am going to watch and probably talk about tomorrow, depending on how it goes. And that's a very interesting thing that's going on. But what I really want to talk about, this is like a buy or sell, if you want to call it. George St Pierre agreeing and finalising on terms with the UFC. So on all accounts, it looks like George is returning. Do I buy or sell this? I buy it, absolutely. Look, we are aware, and we have been aware, that George has talked about coming back. If you follow him on Instagram and Twitter, and you've seen the pictures and you've seen the videos over the last, 2 years, this is a man that's been training. This is a man that has not let himself get too out of shape. This is a man that has been working on his skills, working on staying healthy, so that he can come back, and it's not this big, jump, I've got to get back in shape. So he's kind of already there. So if you're already kind of there, that tells me you want to come back. But obviously the thing has been the war of words between him and the UFC, mostly Dana White, and that, I think we all understand that this is to do with the contract and the fact that Reebok have come in and there's this overpriced, expensive deal and people are not able to get their sponsorship money back. George had that big contract with Under Armour and all these other sponsors, and he's saying, right, well, I'll come back, but I am not going to fight for less than this much, and you are not going to kind of make me be fooled into signing a contract and fight for peanuts. And then obviously Dana played his game by saying, well, George doesn't want to be a fighter, okay? I know when a guy doesn't have it, okay? George doesn't have it. Little Dana White for you right there. But we all know that Dana's saying that to goad him into signing whatever deal they have at that time. So there's been this war of words, and my belief is George will come back, but only if it's a deal that suits him. Look, he's getting punched in the face. He's probably got a lot of head trauma going on and things like that. If you're going to bring him back, then you better make it worth his while. And I believe that George isn't coming back half-hearted. He comes in. When he comes in, he comes in. And I don't blame him for leaving in the first place. I mean, he had a lot of things going on in his head. The man was probably burnt out. He grew, his superstardom grew at the same time that the UFC's superstardom grew when you look at it. I followed the George St Pierre run. I was a huge fan of that run. I remember when they brought him over from Canada and he fought, and I think he fought Jay Haran. I think it was Jay Haran that I saw him fight. And I remember that climb, that meteoric climb, and it was fast and it was furious, and every year it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and every 2 years, every fight was a big fight. Every fight was bigger. Every fight was bigger. I remember the BJ Penn fight, the second time, how big that was. Then you go to UFC 100, that was a big one. Then you go to the Dan Hardy fight, which was a big one because that fight actually stole some of the WrestleMania audience for that weekend. I remember thinking, wow, that's very interesting. And the fights got bigger and bigger and bigger. Nick Diaz, another one. Johnny Hendricks, another one, which had a controversial ending. So I can see him just being burnt out and needing to be away from that and the politics of the sport. Now he's refreshed. Now he's recharged. It's George St Pierre rebooted. It's George St Pierre 2.0. And maybe things will be different. Maybe the way he fights will be different as a result. So I do buy that he's coming back. I absolutely buy that he's coming back. Now, who is George St Pierre going to fight when he returns? Very, very interesting, because I'm looking at my table right now, and obviously if you know me and you follow me long enough, you know I'm a bit of a collector or a bit of a hoarder, as my mum would say. And while I have my sip of my mug of tea, I'm looking down, and it's almost like fate. Because the one name that I keep hearing, I mean, here are the names that I've heard, right, ready? From a pure martial arts standpoint, Damian Maia would be very fascinating to watch. And I think Damian Maia has a shot of beating him. I really do. But if it stays standing up, I can see George winning there. Him and Damian Maia, from a martial arts standpoint, would be very fascinating to watch. Him and Wonderboy Thompson would be very interesting to watch. But I don't know if they would do that, because I know that they're quite friendly with each other. And I believe that Thompson had come down a few times to help George with training, and I believe that George kind of mentored him a little bit in a similar way to Rory McDonald, but not as much. So that's Wonderboy Thompson. Tyron Woodley, the current champion, That would be another name that I've heard. Then I've heard Nick Diaz in a rematch. That's another one that people talk about. And I believe Nick might come back for that, because that's the only... A fight that's going to make him a lot of money is a fight that Nick will come back for. Nate Diaz was another name I heard, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Conor McGregor was another name that I heard. If Conor comes back, right, and I believe we'll see him in the UFC. I mean, this Floyd thing we can talk about another time. I mean, the less said about that, the better right now. Conor and George, I believe that was nearly going to happen last year. And the reason why I believe that is that George was at the first Nate Diaz fight, wasn't he? And there was a lot of speculation that had Conor won, the ball would have been rolling on a St Pierre McGregor fight for UFC 200. And then when Conor lost, that went out the window. And we do know in the fight business that if a fighter loses the next fight that he has to lead to the big fight, then the big fight goes out the window. And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen in the history of the sport many, many a time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Conor McGregor and St Pierre. That could be one. And that's a big fight. And you know that Conor's not going to fight anyone that's not going to have a big name, even though Conor is the big name. But when he fights George St Pierre, you got those two stars combined. That's a massive gate right there. And a massive pay-per-view right there. So that's another one. So McGregor was one. And then I look at my table, and as I said before, it's almost like looking at fate. Let me show you what I'm looking at, because you know I'm a collector. Okay. So obviously I have a George St Pierre figure, right? There you go. Not impressed with your performance. And if you look on my table here, because my nephew was here earlier, and he's playing with these two, you have Michael Bisping, minus the hair. He's got a bit of a skinhead. And the UFC belt on the table, if you can see. God, I'm such a mark. And I know that this fight is a fight that has been discussed. And I also know that it was very close to happening last year. I know that in Montreal, I think when they did the show, was it in Montreal? It was in Canada. The show towards the end of the year, last year, there was discussion that Bisping was going to fight George St Pierre, but it didn't happen because they couldn't finalise on a contract for George St Pierre. And I know that Bisping has been very much out there saying, I would fight George St Pierre. His camp have said, George's camp have said they want to fight Michael Bisping. Bisping has said he'll either fight Nick Diaz or George St Pierre, but if that doesn't happen, yes, I will fight you, Romero. And that's a fight. But if there's the 7-figure payday, it's against George St Pierre. The return fight, a fight you never thought you would see, a somewhat super fight in a way, George St Pierre versus Michael Bisping. I buy that happening in a lot of ways. I buy that the UFC want it to happen because look at how much they just got sold for. What, 4 billion? You're going to want to make that money back right now. Like, in the shortest amount of time, you want to make the most amount of money. That's pretty much how life is in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to business. And you know that WME, Alphabet Soup, UFC, whatever you want to call them, you know that these guys want that. They want that fucking money back. That's why there's so many interim title fights. Don't be fooled. Listen, the reason why we are having so many interim... Listen, this might as well be an interim belt at this point. The reason why we're having these interim fights is because they want that money back. Now, what better way than have Bisping and George St Pierre on your current active roster fight, draw a massive pay-per-view number and a massive gate? I think that that's a fight that they are really pushing to have happen. Now, I think that George would do it because his camp have said they're interested in the fight. So if they're interested, then you know George is interested. But after that, if it's for the middleweight belt, do I see George staying at middleweight though? That's very debatable. I don't know how he does against Jacare. I don't know how he does against Yoel Romero. I don't know how he does against Luke Rockhold. I don't know how he does against Chris Weidman. Very interesting because these guys are massive and George walks at 190. Or George goes to 155 and fights Conor there. So one way or the other, it looks like George is coming back. And this is going to be very interesting to see what happens and what transpires. I want to know what everyone else out there thinks about George coming back and who he fights next and where he stays. I think he's going to fluctuate between several different weights myself and try and get the most money he can. So it'll be very, very interesting. Anyways, I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to this. Anyways, I need to get out of here. Guys, see you in a little bit. See you soon. Hit that like button. God damn it. Hit the subscribe button. God damn it. Write a comment down below. God damn it. And have a good day. God damn it.